So as you see here, I have a different stove jack on. That stove jack just arrived in the mail this week. It's the ONE TIGRIS Stove Jack. So it's for those of you who don't want to make your own, and I'd made my own in the past, but I decided to give this a shot. I wish the hole was a little smaller so we could adjust it to the size of our individual stoves, but I'm pretty encouraged by it so far, so I'm going to give it a try tonight. Might come up with a couple of adjustments, as I often do with gear once I get it. But if you're looking for a stove jack, there's been a lot of complaints on the internet about the Smokey Hut and the Ironwall and the Wildhaven not coming with an actual jack. Now you can buy one, and they're pretty reasonable cost compared to others on the market. Seems like it will do the trick. So if that's what you're looking for, if you don't want to make your own, give that a shot. Maybe talk about it a little bit in the morning and see how we made out last night. So stay tuned for that. Hey folks, so as you can see, it's not the next morning. Weather moved in on me the next morning. It was really windy, and it was just a better plan to pack up and get out of there. But I wanted to come back and give you my thoughts on the ONE TIGRIS Stove Jack. As you can see here, it comes in a little package like this. I'll just pull it out. You've seen it on the tent now, and you can see it behind me here. There it is. The diameter of the hole is 4 inches. The quality of construction seems pretty good. There was a little misstitch on mine that I was able to quickly correct. But as I said, this has been a major complaint, or one of the things we've heard as far as the ONE TIGRIS Ironwall tents, the Wildhavens, and the Black Orca Smokey Huts. People would rather a stove jack come with them. Most of us have made our own. Here's the one that I quite often use. This is just a barbecue mat, essentially, that goes on the barbecue to keep stuff from getting flame touched and stuff. So it holds on to high heat, no problem. Anyway, as far as the ONE TIGRIS jack, if you don't have a jack and you don't think or feel comfortable making one yourself or getting one made, this is an alternative. The downside is the hole. In these little tents, it really doesn't take much of a stove to heat it. I have the regular size G stove heat view, I think. It has a 2.75 inch stovepipe on it. I've camped with several people with the Wildhaven, the Smokey Huts, and the Ironwalls, and their stovepipes are all pretty similar. So that's my biggest complaint on this, is you might be able to see there's quite a gap around the outside of my pipe. It will help protect the pipe from moving up against the sides. I've seen videos online where people were camping in the snow and the stove shifted during the night and melted one of the sides a little bit. I've came close to that myself earlier this winter. So I mean, that will help with that, but it's not going to keep the weather out. And that's the big factor. I'd rather them just build the stove jack and let us cut our own holes in. You could cut a slit like I have. That works. Or you can always make it bigger, but making it smaller is the problem. So either dropping it down to around the 3-inch mark would be fine, I'm sure. But will it work? Absolutely. The construction seems to be pretty good. It's definitely cheaper than ones you buy on the market, and they probably won't be the same size as the holes in the Smokey Huts, Wildhavens, and Ironwalls. For me, I'm going to use it, but I'm going to use it to add rigidity to what I already have, which is this. So I've changed things up a little bit just to fit them over. And that will slide in my stovepipe. You'll notice that I do leave a little bit on top, and that's to protect the rolled up portion on the iron wall where you roll up the cover. That way it's less likely to get touched by a stovepipe or anything. Sorry, I have my one of my G stovepipes, and that will just slide up like that. That way weather won't get in, or at least very little, if any. And I have a little bit more rigidity to my stove jack to keep the pipe from moving around, especially when you're camping in the snow and she can get pretty warm in those huts. So the snow's bound to melt some or shift, and they don't melt or shift uniformly, so one side of your stove could go down quicker than the other side, and then the pipe will try to move up against your tent. So anyway, it's not a glowing review. It's definitely a start. I'm glad they came out with something. I hope they modify it in the future to either not include the hole or make it much smaller. Like I said, you're able to make it bigger. Even the slits would help. That way it would be more of use to everybody. I have not seen anyone really seriously using a 4-inch stovepipe in one of these tents. I think it's way too much. I mean, I've camped down to -15 Celsius and been warm. So I can't foresee a situation where I would need a bigger stove in one of these tents, or that a bigger stove would be of any use in one of these tents. So limited use that way. If you don't feel like you can make one your own, certainly better than nothing. The night that I stayed out, that's in the picture here, I had another piece, and I slid it in the woods because it was part of my cover for going underneath my tent. And I just slid it on over the top of everything. It blew and flapped around a little bit, but protect it. It was a way better protection as far as letting any weather in. Now, I didn't have any weather besides extreme wind that night and the next morning, but I put it on for my own head's sake. And if you look around it, there's no melting or discoloration at all. I have seen some people's homemade ones got a little discolored, but that's after 2 days of burning in the tent, so I don't think that's a significant factor. I would suggest if you're in extreme cold, I've now got a little tent fan that I put at the top of my pole, and I just turn it on and it will blows the hot air down and gets things warmed up even quicker. But as far as the stove jack goes, it has its uses. I hope it gets improved on to make it more useful for more people, because I think it's a product that, these are great tents, guys, and if they get the stove jack right so that it's useful to everyone, it makes things easier for those who don't feel comfortable making their own, or don't have a seamstress around that has the equipment in order to sew them. In my case, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I don't have a sewing machine, so I used a special glue for my Velcro and Velcroed it on, and let that cure for 24 hours. It's seemed pretty solid. And then I hit it with some staples just to give it some extra strength when you're pulling it on and off. Realistically, I'm probably not going to be taking it on and off all that often. It's going to get put on. I'm going to use this tent predominantly for hot tending. I guess there's a chance I might take it and use the inner for some shoulder season, but I do have other tents for that. So anyway, I hope you found this useful. It's certainly an option if you have the Wildhaven, Ironwall, or Smokey Huts. It's not perfect. I hope there's improvements made on it in the future, but if you were looking for a stove jack for those tents, ONE TIGRIS now has one. So I'll leave that decision on whether it's worth it to you. I think it's somewhere around 30 Canadian. It's probably a little less in the States, but anyway, I hope you found things useful. Stay safe out there, folks. Again, I'm Gary from Nova Scotia Yak Fisher Outdoors. We'll see you next time in the woods. Happy camping, guys. Bye-bye. I got these cats staring at me. I don't have any chicken, guys. What the hell?